In this era of American politics, news about progress is rare. But we found some progress in the state of Minnesota. You see, Democrats there have a slim majority, quite literally the narrowest majority possible. Dems have a 2-vote advantage in the House and a 1-vote advantage in the state Senate. Yet, just this year, they've passed more than 24 progressive bills that protect civil liberties. We're going to keep this up for a moment because, as you can see, it's a huge list, including codifying access to reproductive care, adding protections for transgender residents, restoring voting rights, and enacting paid family leave. So, how have Minnesota Democrats made it happen? Becoming a rare progressive paradise, a blue island in a sea of red states. Who better to ask than the chair of Minnesota's Democratic Party, Ken Martin. Ken, thank you so much for joining me. Let's start with how state Democrats have been able to make this happen, not only with a slim majority, but in such a short window of time. How have you done it?
Yeah, well, look, first off, all the credit goes to our wonderful elected officials who've led with a zeal that we haven't seen in many other states, frankly. This idea that we need to use the power we have when we have it to make the biggest difference we can for as many people. And as you mentioned, of course, that's with slim majorities. But there's a certain urgency of now in Minnesota to, as I said, use the power we have. We don't know. Power is fleeting. Of course, we don't know when we'll have it again. And we want to make the biggest difference we can. And, you know, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, Minnesotans and Americans want a government that's going to work for them and deliver results, and that's clearly what's happened here in Minnesota.
You know, I think when a lot of folks think of Minnesota, they think of names like Humphrey and Mondale, and they think of Wellstone. They think of these liberal lions over the years, but it's actually been a swing state, closer than many folks think. What, if anything, could Democrats nationwide take from your state party's approach heading into 2024?
Well, I think you have to be bold. And again, I think what most Americans are looking for is people are going to stand up and deliver on the promises that they made during the campaign. You know, too often than not, people get disappointed and cynical about politics because politicians on both sides, frankly, get elected to office and then they forgot why they ran for office in the first place. Again, you know, I'm really proud of our elected officials here in Minnesota. I'm frankly proud of President Biden and Vice President Harris for also delivering on the promises they made to Americans when they first ran. You know, that's what America needs now is authentic, genuine politicians who are going to try to use the power they have to make a difference. What good is sitting on power if you're not going to use it to help improve people's lives? And that's what my old friend and mentor Paul Wellstone taught many of us many years ago, which is use the power you have when you have it.
Well, let's talk for a second about the opposite of improving people's lives. We just saw the Supreme Court roll back progress in last week's rulings from affirmative action to student loan debt forgiveness. How big of a role do you see the High Court's rulings playing in the 2024 election?
Well, look, let me just say that what we're seeing around the country, both in the Supreme Court and in Republican-held states, Minnesota really is the antidote to what we're seeing, frankly. And while the Republican Party seems hell-bent on making it harder for people to live their lives, it's the Democratic Party, and here in Minnesota, the DFL, that is working to improve people's lives and strengthen communities. So, you mentioned the U.S. Supreme Court, of course. They're making it harder for people to attend and afford college. Well, here in Minnesota, we just made college free to low-wealth households, while the Republican Party continues to cater to big corporations and wealthy individuals. Here in Minnesota, we passed the nation's largest paid family and medical leave law, making sure that no one loses their job if they have to stay home to take care of a sick child or a family member. And while the Republican Party continues to cut programs that help families with children, here in Minnesota, we passed the nation's largest tax credit, which will help Minnesota families struggling with the increased costs of raising a family. And so, look, while of course we can be fearful of what the Supreme Court and Republicans are doing across the country, there are some bright spots on the horizon. And certainly here in Minnesota, we're showing people that, again, it pays when you win elections to actually use that power to make the difference. And, we are the antidote to what we're seeing in places like Florida and your home state of Texas and other parts of the country where Republicans are making it harder for people to live their lives. We're making it easier.
Well, a moment ago, you mentioned that you want Democrats to use the power they have while they have it. Do you see Minnesota's status as a swing state changing anytime soon?
Look, I mean, we haven't lost a statewide election since I've been chair. I'm proud of that fact. And we've had 2 trifectas in the last decade. But I would say it's still a purple state, and we have to be vigilant. We are an island of blue in a sea of red up here in the upper Midwest. But we have to stay diligent on fighting for our rights here. We have to continue to win elections. I say every election matters. Every election has consequences. And whether, people want to label us as a swing state, a purple state, a blue state, a red state, it really doesn't matter. What we have to do is continue to engage the electorate in their democracy and make sure that they understand the consequences of each and every election. That's true in Minnesota, and that's true across the country.
Ken Martin, all eyes on Minnesota, showing us the way. Chair of the Minnesota Democratic Party, thank you for joining us.